In 1846, Danish theologian Søren Kierkegaard published a major book called Concluding Unscientific Postscript to Philosophical Fragments. It was an attack on the philosophy of German philosopher Georg Hegel. In 1951, H. Richard Niebuhr borrowed the title for an essay that forms the final chapter of the book Christ and Culture. It seems like a fitting title also for this final devotional on Christ and Culture. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Friday, August 9th, 2024. So I was doing my usual morning read this morning through various news feeds, and I saw a piece that used a term that you'd be familiar with if you spent any time around the evangelical movement. The term, Christian worldview. It is a phrase that has been used for at least the last 20 years to describe what some regard as the definitive understanding of the world from the Christian perspective. In fact, the term is almost always used with the definite article, the Christian worldview. Every time I see the term thrown around, I want to shout at the top of my lungs, which Christian view are you talking about? If we've learned nothing else from Niebuhr's Christ and Culture, it is that there is no single understanding of what it means to be Christian, no single understanding of the relationship between Christian faith to the larger culture, and hence no such thing as the Christian worldview. But it doesn't stop those who use it from using it. All it really shows is how much we live in silos. Those who live in the evangelical world can hardly imagine that there are Christians who might think differently from them about a great many things. Pay close attention to some of the rhetoric flying around these days, and you quickly come to the realization that for many of these Christians, evangelicalism is Christianity, and anyone who does not identify as evangelical or hew to the evangelical party line is not just a non-evangelical, they are regarded as non-Christian. To me, the beauty of Niebuhr's work is to remind us that whatever type of Christianity we gravitate toward, it is not the only way to be Christian. Evangelicals are not wrong for being evangelical, but they are wrong to think that their brand of the faith is the definitive form of Christianity, let alone the only form of Christianity. I'm not an evangelical, at least not in the sense of being a capital E type of evangelical, but I value what evangelicals bring to the church. Though they are not what Niebuhr would call the Christ against culture type, one thing Niebuhr says about the against culture type applies to evangelical Christianity. While they have certain deficiencies, they remind us of the importance of obedience to Jesus Christ. One of the critiques of Niebuhr's Christ and Culture by some theologians is that Niebuhr implies what he never actually says, namely, that the best, most balanced of the five types is the Christ transformer of culture type. And in fairness to his critics, this does seem to be Niebuhr's own perspective. But I say, so what? Does his preference for one form of the faith render his analysis null and void? I don't think so. In his concluding unscientific postscript, Niebuhr reminds us that none of us stands in a neutral place that renders our judgments objective and free from bias. The term for this is relativism. Not the kind of relativism that says there's no such thing as objective truth. It is only the recognition that none of us, no individual and no group, can ever claim to hold the objective truth, which is why I bridle at the notion that one group can lay claim to, quote, the Christian worldview. What I so appreciate about Niebuhr is his insistence that the Christian faith is always bigger than our perspective on it. More than that, the church needs all of its various types, even though they disagree about a great many things. Paul addressed this very thing in his letter to the Romans, and I'll let him have the last word. He writes, "Welcome those who are weak in faith, but not for the purpose of quarreling over opinions. Some believe in eating anything, while the weak only eat vegetables. Those who eat must not despise those who abstain, and those who abstain must not pass judgment on those who eat. for God has welcomed them. Who are you to pass judgment on servants of another? It is before their own Lord that they will stand or fall, and they will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make them stand. Some judge one day to be better than another, while others judge all days to be alike. Let all be fully convinced in their own minds. Those who observe the day, observe it in honor of the Lord. Also those who eat in honor of the Lord, since they give thanks to God, while those who abstain in honor of the Lord and give thanks to God. While none of us can lay claim to knowing the fullness of the truth, it is simply objectively true that the Christian community has always included people with vastly different ways of living out the faith. And that's what Niebuhr's book helps us to understand. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.